Jamato P didn't create Null, and he's not its first leader. Null's original leader created this group to give a second chance to players from unstable SMP. But after Jamato P took over as leader, the group went off track and turned into a machine that ruthlessly hunts people down. But I wanted to understand everything about Null, what its connection to the underworld really is. So I watched a bunch of unstable SMP videos, dug through the wiki, and searched through the unstable SMP fandom until I finally figured out who the real leader of Null is. And it's none other than Wifies. I want to show you how an obsession of his led to the creation of Null. Wifies, one of the most mysterious and complex characters in unstable SMP. On the surface, he was calm and composed, level-headed, well-spoken, and always ready to sacrifice for others. But behind that friendly exterior, Wifies was something else entirely. He was incredibly smart, sharp, always one step ahead of everyone, especially Parrot. But what makes Wifies so fascinating is that everything he did was driven by a single goal: protecting Parrot. Wifies and Parrot weren't just friends, they were brothers. They freed people from prison together. They built the End civilization together. They trusted each other completely. Wifies even said that if he couldn't be with Parrot, he'd have no purpose for being on the server at all. But that loyalty slowly twisted into something dark. Wifies kept watching Parrot throw himself into danger over and over, and it started eating at him. He became overprotective, obsessive. He started using unethical methods to study his best friend, just to predict how Parrot would react in high-stress situations. He ignored Parrot's feelings entirely, as long as it meant keeping him safe. He was willing to do anything, and I mean anything. To protect Parrot, Wifies built something terrifying, a prison called Paragon, a tiny world sealed behind 5-block-thick obsidian walls, filled with artificial biomes, a world that could be fully controlled, a world without danger. Wifies stationed guards to keep Parrot locked inside: Jumperhu, Leowook, and Dirapchu. He believed that if he could keep Parrot in this small, flawless world, nothing bad would ever happen to him. But to keep Parrot safe, Wifies had to take away his freedom. Wifies was smarter than Parrot. He knew him too well. Every time Parrot tried to escape, Wifies was already 3 steps ahead. For weeks, Parrot made zero progress. Then something changed. Parrot managed to hide something from Wifies: a spyglass. The very same one Wifies had once given him. They ended up in a hidden room. Wifies forced Parrot onto one pressure plate while he stood on another. He told Parrot there was TNT buried beneath them. If either of them stepped off, the whole room would blow. Wifies had planned for them to stand on those plates forever, for the rest of their lives. But then Parrot pulled out the spyglass and started talking about the old Wifies. He talked about their memories together, about the friend who always had his back, the friend who gave him that very spyglass, the friend who was always there. Wifies couldn't answer, because deep down he knew exactly what he'd become. Parrot set the spyglass down on the plate and walked away. After an emotional flashback of his memories with Parrot, Wifies ran toward the spyglass. He picked it up one last time, accepted his fate, and the TNT went off. Wifies died in the Paragon explosion. Parrot saw his death message. He climbed to the top of the wall, took one last look at Paragon, got in a boat, and rode away. But before Wifies died, he'd already planted the seed of something much bigger. Something that would change unstable SMP forever. Wifies himself created the totem-stasis exploit. He developed it out of his obsession with making Parrot immortal. But he couldn't test it on Parrot alone, so he tested the idea on other players first, scaling it up. And that became the foundation of Null. Here's the thing: Wifies didn't invent this technology from scratch. A primitive version of it already existed. The Farlands civilization, Serpentbound, and the other OG players had something similar. Wembu encountered it on his very first trip to the Farlands, long before Null existed as a concept. When Wifies died in the Paragon explosion, everything changed. Jamato P, who already knew about the exploit, stepped in. He knew the technology, he knew the players, he knew how the system worked. Before Jamato P took charge, the Null totem belonged to an unknown, earlier leader of Null. But Jamato P was stronger. He defeated that previous leader and seized control of the totem, and with it, control of all of Null. Jamato P transformed Null completely. What had been a small group built around Wifies' obsession became something far bigger. He turned it into the army we see today. From a scattered group into a full-blown military force. Null became the oldest faction in the entire unstable world, dating back to the server's very creation. And Jamato P became known as its leader. He was the face of Null, the one everyone feared. But there's one truth Jamato P never told anyone. He didn't invent Null. He inherited it. That's why Jamato P was revealed as the leader without ever discrediting Wifies as its true founder. Millions of blocks away, on the largest Minecraft server, sits a hidden prison called Purgatory, a massive black fortress belonging to Null's hunters. It was built to hold the server's most dangerous criminals. Over 1,000 players have been trapped behind its walls. Every player only gets one life, which makes escaping nearly impossible. Thousands have been imprisoned there, including Spoke, Mapic, and Jumperwho. Purgatory ran on glitches and bizarre mechanics, things that shouldn't even be possible. Water-based dispensers in the Nether, systems that broke the game's own rules. And when prisoners tried to escape, Jamato P forced them into Hunger Games-style simulations as punishment. He made them fight to the death for a shot at freedom. He created an environment where every prisoner in some way blamed Spoke for their captivity. Spoke was thrown into solitary. Jumperwho and Mapic were sentenced to execution. This is what Null became under Jamato P's rule. Not a system for giving players second chances, but a machine built to erase identity and hunt people down without mercy. Null had drifted so far from what Wifies originally created. But there's another mystery no one's been able to fully explain: the underworld. The underworld exists beneath nether bedrock, something that shouldn't normally be possible. So how does a place like that even exist? Maybe the answer is someone capable of breaking Minecraft's own rules, Jamato P. But the underworld holds another secret too: the Soul Keepers. Deep inside it, we found 6 mysterious guardians protecting it. And there's something strange about them. They have that same skinless, hollow look as Null. They even wear emerald trims on their armor, the same color scheme Jamato P uses. But the biggest clue is their name itself, Soul Keepers. Why call them that? Maybe they weren't guarding the underworld itself. Maybe they were guarding whatever happens inside it. Why were they capturing players? Why trap them inside the underworld? Maybe the answer connects to one of the strangest objects we've ever seen: the gold block. For a long time, people believed the gold block inside the underworld was a way to revive dead players. And honestly, it makes sense. That's exactly why the Mafia revival theory exists: a mysterious object hidden in the underworld that seems powerful enough to bring people back. But there's a problem. If the gold block just revives people, why does Null have no identity at all? Why do they look completely different? Why does it seem like something's been stripped away from them? What if the gold block doesn't bring people back? What if it changes them? Their identity, their appearance, their name, their soul, turning all of it into something empty, turning them into a null. And that explains something no other theory fully can: why Null doesn't look like regular players. Because maybe they aren't dead players who came back, maybe they're players who became something else entirely. But there's still one problem. After the most recent events, we learned Null used to be an old, powerful army with its own leader. Jamato P didn't create Null, he defeated its previous leader and took control. Which means the real question isn't, did Jamato P create Null? The real question is, how did Jamato P manage to seize control of an army that powerful? And the answer is the Null Totem, a powerful object linked to the entire Null army. A totem so critical that if it's destroyed, the whole army falls with it. That raises an even bigger mystery. How did Jamato P become powerful enough to defeat Null's previous leader? And here's where another big clue shows up: the Wither Skull Cannon. During the destruction of Purgatory, Jamato P used a weapon that summoned Wither Skulls out of nowhere. And I think we already know how he pulled that off. Inside the underworld, Wembu discovered withers trapped inside a rig built specifically around them, a machine forcing them to continuously fire Wither Skulls, a system designed to control their attacks. And now, Jamato P is somehow able to use that same technology outside the underworld. Which points to something huge. The underworld wasn't just some random place. It was packed with technology and power that no one else on the server had access to. So maybe they're connected to secrets buried deep in the underworld. Maybe the gold block was never built to revive people. Maybe it was built to change them. Maybe the Soul Keepers were responsible for creating what eventually became Null. But now everything has changed. Null's power now rests in Spoke's hands. Spoke now controls one of the most coordinated and skilled armies in all of unstable SMP. Spoke defeated Jamato P in a challenge for the Null Totem. He seized control of the totem and became the current leader of Null. But what makes Spoke such a fascinating character is this: he didn't just take over Null, he transformed it again. Just like Jamato P did, just like the leader before him. Spoke turned Null from a scattered group of hunters into a full military force. He set their goal as conquering the entire server, showing everyone exactly who owns everything. He did it through brutal methods, wiping out end civilizations, forcing players to hand over ender crystals, raiding cities and colonies for resources. Spoke is the only character in unstable SMP who plays both hero and anti-hero at once. A hero to some, a villain to others. And now, with Null's power behind him, he might be the most dangerous person on the entire server. But here's a twist that changes everything. Wifies is coming back, likely through that very same gold block in the underworld we mentioned earlier. See, Wifies never truly stopped being the director. After faking his own death, he became the head of a shadow organization orchestrating a fully controlled world to keep his friends safe. He faked his death and became something dark, all to protect Parrot. But Wifies isn't coming back for immortality. He already solved that problem. He just paid a heavy price for it, losing his identity, which is exactly what Null proves. Immortality means nothing without identity. Wifies is coming back to fix the flaw, to create a clean version of immortality, one that preserves identity, so he can give it to Parrot and his friends. The price he never wanted Parrot to pay in the first place. And that's the story of Null. Hope you enjoyed it. Like, subscribe, don't forget. Bye.